Welcome back to another episode of Antique Overland. As we promised, there'd be a video from our camping trip from a couple of weeks ago. As you know, we took our first trip of the year just about 2 weeks ago now, and the weather here has been rather up and down. It snowed at the end of April this year, and then turned warm and almost like late spring, and then following a week of upper 80s, we dipped back into the 30s and faced a couple of days of rain and hail. So, needless to say, our trip started out a little wet and cold. As I mentioned in last week's video, we wanted to, among other things, test out some new items that one or more of us purchased over the past several months, and we wanted to give the 20 Studebaker a really good run. As you know, if you follow our Instagram, we're running it pretty hard these days and trying to work out the last of the kinks of what remained of about 40 years of parade car status. We set out in the rain just about 1 p.m. and headed up the hill to Sly Park Recreation Area, Jenkinson Lake, which is going to be the site of the Gypsy portion of the July National Motor Campout. For those of you who are curious, I'll link it in the description. This won't be one of the sites we have in July because of the number of sites we needed and the space available for us to camp together. But for 4 people, 2 tents, 2 cars, and a trailer, this was perfect, and you couldn't beat the view. There's not a lot of footage from the first few hours of our trip. The hail was pelting us intermittently, and we were scrambling to set up tents, open the trailer, and keep as much dry as possible. We're going to jump right into our first full day. As I said, it was intermittent rain with periods of short but substantial rainfall. The only thing that was constant was our searching in vain for patches of blue sky. As I mentioned earlier, this was meant to be an experimental trip, the goal of which was to focus on impression details, testing out mostly restored original gear, and playing with some great reproduction additions to our camp. Needless to say, there was a lot of period game playing with original decks of various card games, a lot of snacks, and some interesting period recipes, one of which was truly a surprise for us. This is one of our most notable tests, the first campsite use of the 1937 Coleman 418. If you're curious about that orphan one-hit wonder Coleman, check out our One Hit Wonders video.
That is correct. The Grand Canyon of the Colorado is in the northwestern part.
Okay, there's popcorn everywhere because the popcorn thing part.
No.
This was also our first use of the Vico Expedition Outfitters Keewaydin bag. We couldn't hang it as intended due to the rain, but the bags and cans it came with, along with our additions, were dry, organized, and most importantly, it rode well when packed between the fender and the hood on the Stude. Here's another quick look at some of the items we packed with us, including our pre-weigh ice chest, picnic set, Stanley thermos, and a running board box for gas and oil that we've repurposed for lantern and stove fuel, and some other miscellaneous items. As you may have noticed in that previous shot, there were wrapped items on the ice chest. If you watch us prepare dinner, you'll notice that those were wedges of cheese and sausage. We can't help it, we're hors d'oeuvre people. We will give you several shots of our cooking area in this video to show you the level of detail we choose to go with regarding our packaging. You'll have to excuse a few modern items and articles of clothing. The rain and cold really wreaked havoc with some of our planning. Yes, we know it rained in the 20s and 30s too, but there's some pieces we just didn't want to expose to the elements this time. Our first real break in the weather was Tuesday afternoon. While the rain had essentially abated overnight, the cold hung on through a good part of the day. We mostly stayed around the campfire until it was time to scout other campsites for miscellaneous firewood. I also wanted to check out the sites that we have for July in person. You'll get a glimpse of that a little further on in the video. This wouldn't be an Antique Overland video if we didn't include some history. So let's consider the history of the place we're in. Mind you, this is a very abridged version. The area we know as Sly Park was initially a meadow inhabited at times by Miwok and Maidu people, but by 1848 saw the establishment of the first wagon road, today's Mormon Immigrant Trail, which we'll have the opportunity to drive in July. Sly Park is named for one of those early pioneers, James Calvin Sly, who reportedly found the meadow and later led a wagon train through the same. Fast forward to our time period, and beginning in 1882, Henry Stark and Mary Carmichael settled in Sly Park, where they ran a ranch, dairy, hotel, and store, which operated until it was sold to EID, El Dorado Irrigation District, in 1927. During this time, Sly Park was heavily milled by the likes of Blair's or Phippin's Mills and others, lumber companies which operated from the 1890s to circa 1910, though through the 20s and 30s logging remained an economic centerpiece, with companies using oxen and trucks to pull their loads. Despite the Great Depression, the region stayed active thanks to that logging and ranching. With persistent water shortages, EID purchased the land in 1927, hoping to build a reservoir. Financial struggles delayed the project until 1951, when federal support championed by Congressman Claire Engel and EID manager Walter Jenkinson made it possible. Jenkinson Lake was completed in 1954 and holds roughly 41,000 acre-feet of water. The project included 3 dams, a massive tunnel diverting water into Park Creek. The cabins from the old lumber mill were moved or reused, and remnants of the early homesteads and mill foundations can still be seen when the water is low, such as the 1911 chimney and partial foundation of the Allen Bishop House.
It sounds good though.
Wednesday's breakfast saw another foray into the realm of experimental archaeology, with our boarding house flapjack griddle and surprisingly good 1927 recipe for flapjacks, which were probably made as light as they were thanks to the addition of powdered eggs. Thanks again, Vico Expedition Outfitters, for your egg packaging. One thing we did learn, however, is that the boarding house griddle does not work on a 3-burner camp stove. Back to the regular griddle for us. With the weather finally in our favor, we enjoyed a bit of time at the lake and tested out another new gadget, a coffee grinder that we temporarily mounted to the barbecue grill. We took a short drive back to Hazel Creek, the site of our July campsites, and the trail to the waterfall. Our sites make up the central portion of the camp and one sort of to the left-hand side. No, you go down and around. So what did we learn during our experimental camping trip? We definitely need to order more of Logsdon & Co.'s 1906 vulcanized ponchos. The What Price Glory 20s 30s vintage denim trousers need to be purchased at least one size larger than we typically wear to produce the correct silhouette and make them fit like period trousers. The Vico products worked very well for us and made nice additions to our already repackaged and relabeled goods. All of our restored camping gear worked perfectly for us, with the exception of the boarding house griddle. We found some recipes that we'll be trying again, and a couple we'll probably be passing on. So thanks for watching this episode. If you liked it, like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.